I'd like to call this meeting of the Charlotte County Planning and Zoning Board to order. If the secretary please call the roll.
Michael Gravenson.
Here.
Paul Bigness.
Here.
Stephen Vieira.
Here.
Don McCormick.
Here.
Clint Baker.
Here. Okay, everybody's here, and I'd like to welcome our new member, Clint Baker. Thank you. The minutes for the April 11th meeting were circulated. Any corrections or modifications? If not, I'll accept those as circulated unless there's an objection. Any announcements from the staff?
Just as you said, welcome to Mr. Baker.
The attorney have any? No. Okay. Okay, I'd like to remind everybody to turn off or silence their cell phones, as mine went off at the beginning. Okay. If you are making any presentation during the first petition, that's a quasi-judicial, and you'll need to stand and take the oath.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say I do. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Sean, first item, please.
Thank you. Sean Cullen, Planning and Zoning Official. I have been sworn. At this time, I'd like to offer myself into evidence as an expert in planning and zoning matters. I have over 15 years of planning and zoning experience, and I am responsible for the binding determinations of the county's land development regulations.
So accepted.
Thank you. The first item is a preliminary plat for Lennar Homes. This is Babcock National Phase 6. This is a residential development consisting of 54 single-family lots on approximately 18.5 acres. This is located within the Babcock Ranch Community Development and Regional Impact. Here is the high aerial, mid-range, and the location map. As you can tell, this is just a continuation of the roads already going in and the numerous construction out there. Once again, the location map. The zoning is Babcock Overlay Zoning District with a future land use map designation of Babcock Mixed Use. This is the 1,000-foot buffer notification map. Here are the proposed changes and the results of the proposed changes overlaid onto the aerial. Staff would be happy to answer any questions. We find that it meets all the standards and requirements of the code and comprehensive plan, and I believe the applicant representative is here as well.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Any questions for staff?
No.
Okay, Mr. Bernson.
Rob Bernson, Big W Law, here on behalf of the applicant. Welcome, Mr. Baker. I have a very long presentation on this. No, we appreciate working with the staff. This is just a continuation of the this portion of the Babcock National Project. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Bernson?
No.
Does he accept Sean as?
Yeah, of course I do.
Quite honestly, it's irrelevant, sir.
Things change, huh?
Okay, thank you. So we'll open up the public comment time. Anyone wishing to speak about this petition, please come forward. Okay.
I would move to close the public comment.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close public comment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public comment is closed. Any questions about this?
No, they just
So,
keep moving along.
Just, yep. Entertain a motion then.
I'll do that. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to forward application PP-22-02-04 to the Board of County Commissioners with a recommendation of approval based on the findings and analysis in the staff memo dated April 29th, 2022, Charlotte County's comprehensive plan, and the evidence and testimony presented at the public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Board.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So that goes forward.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. But can I start? Good afternoon. For the record, Jay Shao, Community Development Department. Staff initiated application TCP 2201, which will be presented to the Board of County Commissioners on May 24th for its transmittal hearing. This is a text amendment to the county's comprehensive plan to revise future land use flume policy 2.1.15 TDU, TDU waivers to address future residential development on county-owned properties historically used for public services and facilities. And all these policies used for countywide. So on the screen, actually, you can see this is very detailed, the text amendment. The paragraph has been added, proposed. The reason for this proposed text amendment is that there are various land use amendments and the county's comprehensive plan rewrite land development regulations changes since 1988, and the creation of the transfer density units, also later called first called transfer density rights, and later called transfer density units program was created, and also revisions have been made since 1994. So the county unintentionally removed the residential density rights from county-owned property when it is developed such property for public facilities and services. So the county now realizes that these public land and facilities are either relocated or no longer necessary to serve the citizens of Charlotte County. So county-owned property should be redeveloped for residential uses, which were the intended use prior to development for public facility and services. I'm not sure whether you recall, I'm sure you remember back to 2005, 2004, we always came to the county and initiated changes if the county used the place for fire station, used for other government uses. So we come to the county to initiate a large scale to change from various medium, low density residential to public lands and facility. So there's no problem if we don't use that, we can change that back. But however, we have TDU program never recognize this unique circumstance. So we want to save the public, taxpayers' money. So we think that's supposed to be waived. So that's why we added to this policy. So I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Yes.
So with the TDUs of private land, let's say prior to 2010, and it had residential TDUs on it, and they came, a private citizen, and made it commercial. What would happen? Would those TDUs be gone at that point?
Yes, that's
Okay,
what began.
so then a private person wouldn't get the same consideration to automatically, if he or she sold it to someone else, if they wanted to get TDUs back.
Because there's an issue with the private. You have the residential and you want for commercial uses. But this is purely for government uses, government taxpayer for infrastructure. So government use for that. And unfortunately, our land use category prior to 2010, so did not recognize government uses in the facility. It's supposed to be, this type of uses could be located all within residential neighborhood or under major roadways. That's just the government supposed to provide public service and infrastructure to all the citizens. So that is one of the uses. This will not happen anymore. Since 2010, we changed our comp plan. We add these uses under any active land use category. So we don't need to staff does not need to initiate any changes to the comp plan to change it to public land and facility. That's one of our permitted uses for that. So we just want to rectify this situation because we use that for government uses. Technically, we should not change that to public land and facilities. So we just want to correct that. So I think there's a big difference. This is used for public infrastructure to serve the Charlotte County citizens instead of a private to do that for their own purpose for that.
Right, but then it would, citizens could not come and speak against the TDU if it automatically reverts back for a government property, right?
Yeah, because these are all used not for one person, one company's gain. It's really serve Charlotte County citizens. So that's the reason we don't want all the waste to spend the extra cost for the Charlotte County citizen to change it, to purchase the TDU and move that onto a piece of property. So
can I ask, let's just say the county had a piece of property that was designated for public facilities in this category. would, before 2010, the underlying use have been residential if it was located in a residential zone and the TDUs would have, or the density units?
I need to correct two things. In 2010, we do have some property in Shower County, in South Gulf Cove, everywhere. We have the land use category, public land and facility. So, and then they have residential zoning category, because there is no specific zoning to implement public land and facility. But for that case, this does not apply because they have public land and facility there since day one, since 1997, 2010. This case is used for, we have prior to 2010 and after 1998, county has public land and facility, like a fire station we put on the land. Then we initiated changes for low-density residential and medium-density residential. We changed that to public land and facility, want to make sure the uses is consistent with the land use category, which is required by the law. But that case will no longer have, the cases anymore, because since 2010, we changed our comp plan. We add government uses and services into any active land use category. But however, we still have unintended consequences. Previous years we did, especially 2004, 2005, we make a lot of initiated changes for the government uses.
Mr. Chairman? I have a
Yes.
question. Is there any increase in density units of the total for the whole county? Because I know we have a set amount, basically, by allowing waivers.
I don't think so, because they have the rights underlying, they still have that. But if you talk about the number, I don't think they have one or two.
Say like,
Let me rephrase it. You want to ask me, because of these changes, will they increase overall density in Shower County? And yes, the answer is yes, but there is the reason behind that is technically, if we don't use public land, if we don't build a fire station there, we don't build a government office there, they have the residential development rights. But we change that to public land and facility, then it's kind of, we haven't used the residence, government to use that. So now we don't use that, we want to put that back. But to answer your question straightforward, yes, they will increase the overall density.
like Murdoch Village, when that was taken over and then, redeveloped recently.
But Murdoch Village is a different situation, because Murdoch Village, we have Murdoch Village mixed use, and we gave them the maximum density 2,740 units. But however, they can go through conversion table. They give them maximum is 5,800. That's for Murdoch Village.
Let me see if I can clear it up a
So
little
I
bit.
just,
Sean Cullen, playing zoning official. Let me see if I can break it down a little bit. First off, Murdoch Village, that area was exempt from the TDU program, and so that's kind of not really comparable. So essentially what this is, and I'm going to bring up a term from probably about 20 to 30 years ago that some of you folks may remember, the lockbox. If you remember Al Gore and his lockbox. When we change the future land use designations on some of these properties that have government facilities, fire stations, sheriff's offices, government facilities, whatever that might be, it locked that density where you can't unlock it. This gives us the ability to be able to unlock that density that's still allowed under the zoning designation. So it's basically, we had locked it down tight. This now gives us a master key to be able to unlock that.
When it got locked, where did they go?
They went nowhere.
Weren't located?
Essentially, because the zoning stays residential single family. So I'll use an example of right now we're reconstructing Fire Station 2 over off of Cochrane. That one is being relocated into the Murdoch Village area because that structure was, it's worn down, it's gone past its useful life. So once that fire station relocates, that's a residential multifamily property. We would want to get that back onto the tax rolls, and because now we've moved that government non-tax roll use onto a new site, we want to put that back out there so it can be a producing member of the community. And so this would work for that as well. This just gives us the ability to utilize the provisions for the, and I'm spacing right now, the limited relief in order to be able to address this.
And would this only be for properties that prior had TDUs?
Correct.
So if it had 50 TDUs, they went into
If
a
it had
lockbox.
50 density units.
If they want to put 70, they have to come back to get
Yeah,
the
they'd have to
additional-
go
and they have
through
to
just
come
like
from
anybody
somewhere.
else. Correct.
So all the ones in Murdoch Village, the thousands there, were locked, and you guys are saying.
No, they were not locked.
Okay, so
No.
those were
No, those
never,
never-
they didn't go away when it was Murdoch Village and
Nope.
rezoned?
No, because what we did, that didn't get rezoned. That still had, and portions of it still do have the underlying residential single-family zoning district. The future land use designation was turned to Murdoch Village mixed use, but all the density stayed on there with it, as well as the ability through, as Jay said, the conversion matrix to be able to, everything is based on trips. So it also, we eminent domained commercial, we eminent domained residential, so you can use a conversion matrix as long as the trips stay the same. If we want to increase that, we've got to go through the same steps, comp plan amendments, rezones, all that. In order to utilize them, they've got to either use their existing zoning, so somebody could buy it and just do residential single family theoretically, but they go PD, the plan development route.
When the cap on density was instituted way back when, in the comp plan change, did the county know what the total density units were for the county?
We can do a math, we never count that, but I can tell you, we have since we have 1994, have the TDR program, at that time, it's kind of capped.
Yeah, but it was a question of, did you have 200,000 units? Did you have 250? Did you have a number? Or is it, you never really went through and tried to add it up? And if you didn't try to add it up, that's fine. I mean, you established the limits with the flume and the zoning.
We don't, how to say, we said it's locked. Basically, the density, the base density based on zoning and flume. And then anything increase, you got to transfer. Or you can have incentive density, because 2050 comprehensive plan, we did set incentive density. They use called rapid density. So basically, we, the county initially tried to promote the development and redevelopment for the infill urban area. So we did that as part of 2050 comp plan. So we do have incentive density.
Just a little bit more background, especially for those, many of you know, Mr. Baker, you may not, as well as people that may be watching on TV or Facebook. That was not willingly done, if you recall. The density cap, that was based on the fact that we have between 180,000 and 200,000 quarter-acre platted lots. So essentially, we do kind of know how many density units we have, although, as Jay said, the TDUs is, or the density is based on the zoning and the maximum potential under the future land use map designation. But in terms of a generalized accounting of it, we can determine based on how many quarter-acre lots we have, is probably 95% of the county is the quarter-acre single-family lot. So that, in that sense, yes, we do have a general accounting of it, not to the exact unit, but we do have a general accounting of that.
Okay. Now, I understand this process for the government-owned properties because you changed the flumes on them. Is there a process, or are you considering a process for the privately owned properties that had parks and recreation put on them back in the early days when we needed more parks and rec land to meet the criteria for, whatever the criteria was, but that we had some private lands were added as parks and recs, and if they lost their density, is there some mechanism that you have or are considering to allow them to get back what they lost through that just arbitrary put of a land use on them?
As my understanding at right now, at this time, we don't have that. And we did part of research back to 1997, 2010. We get a lot of, we use a golf course. We put them as public land, parks and recreation. But I believe, based on my limited research, because we have a lot of people ask for the Parks and Recreation. By that time, you can see the golf course, the density already goes to the surrounding. This is golf course. They kind of as a whole, they have development that goes to the side of the golf course. They already use that development. It's based on my limited research, but that is not the topic. We don't have any, we have not get the direction from the board to see how can get the density back.
I would just add that I would think that we'd want to consider some process for the private public to have a change to anything that was Parks and Rec instituted by the county when the first or second comprehensive plans were done, and they weren't aware of what they were getting into, or, I mean, they had Parks Recs put on it, and then the TDU ordinances came through and we got capped, and those that were Parks and Recs may have, I won't say they did, may have lost their density. Just as if the government's going to do it for your government-owned property, I'd like to see, it's not a recommendation in the vote here, but I'd like to see the county consider some sort of process for the private to have an appeals process.
Understood.
You can see them on appeals.
Actually, we did get the request for people on the Parks and Recreation, and then end up we noticed all the density already used for the surrounding. So basically, if you change that back, and then automatically the surrounding residential will be exceed what the comp plan allowed density.
Right, but I think that's a good point. Some of them still remain locked if they didn't use them all, if it became Parks and Recreation. So to me, it's kind of like the government's halfway doing it. They still designated that, just like they did government buildings. Now they're trying to make an exemption for half, but not the other half. If I bought Parks and Recreation land and I wanted to get it rezoned back to residential, you would think they would become unlocked automatically like these. So I think they don't, but that's a good catch. I think, that's a good call out for the Parks and Recreation.
Okay, any other questions for staff? No? Okay, we'll open up public comment. Anyone wishing to speak about this policy, please come forward. Okay. Nobody's coming forward.
Move to close the public comment.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close public comment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public comment is closed. Okay, any other discussion? We kind of had it with our questions. Any other discussion on this change? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion. And this is countywide, so anybody.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion if you want.
Yes.
Make a motion to forward application TCP-22-01 to the Board of County Commissioners with a recommendation of approval to transmit petition TCP-22-01 to the Department of Economic Opportunity and other state review agencies for review and comment based on the findings and analysis in the board memo dated April 18, 2022, and the evidence presented at the public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Board this date.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that goes forward. Anything else from staff? Our agenda is done, so we're adjourned.